Look, nobody is shocked Zohran Mamdani won New York. The polls told us this was coming. The activist base, the academic class, the democratic socialist branding, the viral clips, the student crowds. This was the trajectory. What is worth pausing on is why he won, and what that tells us about where American political culture is heading, especially in blue strongholds like New York City. You've got a self-described socialist, backed heavily by young voters and highly online progressives, running on a platform of impossible promises, higher taxes on the rich, all wrapped in poetic language about justice and liberation. It sounds compassionate, it feels moral, but economically, it's gasoline on a fire that's already driving families and businesses out of the city. And voters signed off on it anyways. Why? Because this election wasn't really about governing New York City. It was about symbolism, tribalism, and emotion. It was about hating Donald Trump more than loving New York, rewarding utopian slogans over math and consequences, a rising nihilism, burn it down, it can't get worse, and the very real crisis of low information voting, people hearing vibes, mantras, and TikToks, not reading budgets, not counting costs. And then Mamdani steps up on election night and proves the point. His big victory message to the city, not a serious roadmap for public safety, affordability, sanitation, infrastructure, families, small businesses, or competence. No, his central true line is, we are the ones who will defeat Trump, in a municipal role that depends heavily on cooperation with the federal government. This is exactly the problem. I'm going to play you a section of his speech. Then we are going to break down why this mindset is dangerous for New York, for political sanity, and for anyone who still believes leadership is supposed to be about governing, not cosplaying resistance or applause.
Together, we will usher in a generation of change. And if we embrace this brave new course, rather than fleeing from it, we can respond to oligarchy and authoritarianism with the strength it fears, not the appeasement it craves. After all, if anyone can show a nation betrayed by Donald Trump how to defeat him, it is the city that gave rise to him. And if there is any way to terrify a despot, it is by dismantling the very conditions that allowed him to accumulate power. This is not only how we stop Trump, it's how we stop the next one. So Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up. We will hold bad landlords to account because the Donald Trumps of our city have grown far too comfortable taking advantage of their tenants. We will put an end to the culture of corruption that has allowed billionaires like Trump to evade taxation and exploit tax breaks. We will stand alongside unions and expand labor protections because we know, just as Donald Trump does, that when working people have ironclad rights, the bosses who seek to extort them become very small indeed. New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant.
Alright, let's unpack what we just heard, because that speech is a concentrated sample of everything wrong with modern progressive politics in deep blue cities. I'll break this into 5 parts. The first one is the utopian fantasy, free everything, no trade-offs. Mamdani's entire brand is built on unrealistic socialistic promises, rent freezes, huge expansions of public benefits, higher labor costs, expanded protections, more subsidies, more programs, more everything, paid for by the rich. His campaign site and coverage openly highlight aggressive affordability, rent freezes, higher taxes on the wealthy, universal type benefits. Here is the fundamental deceit. You can't punish capital, punish investment, punish productive citizens, signal hostility to property rights, and then act shocked when capital leaves, jobs leave, tax base shrinks, and the city becomes more fragile. New York is already bleeding high earners, businesses and retirees to places with saner tax and regulatory environments. That's not a theory. That's been documented for years. When you elect a mayor who openly embraces punitive redistribution and ideological hostility to wealth, you accelerate that exodus. And the cruel irony, the people hurt first are not the billionaires with 3 backup properties. It's the worker whose employer doesn't expand. The landlord with 1-3 family home suffocated by regulation. The family who sees costs rise while services decline. Utopian rhetoric sells because it outsources pain to a faceless villain. Oligarchs, bad landlords, the rich, Trump-like billionaires. But see, everything is promising has a price tag. And that bill doesn't magically stop at people he personally dislikes. Number 2. The Trump obsession, hating one man as a governing philosophy. Mamdani says, if anyone can show a nation betrayed by Donald Trump how to defeat him, it's the city that gave rise to him. This is not only how we stop Trump, it's how we stop the next one. He centers his victory speech as a mayor of a city with real problems around Donald Trump. For a huge slice of progressive voters, politics is now structured around Trump as a psychological totem. The harsher you talk about him, the more you posture as his hack nemesis, the more serious and moral you appear. But here is the problem. New York City isn't a Twitter space. It's a city with a fragile budget, crumbling infrastructure, public safety challenges, a housing crisis, fleeing tax base, and schools in trouble. Being mayor requires a working relationship with the federal government for disaster relief, infrastructure funding, transportation, housing grants, homeland security coordination, and law enforcement task forces. If your primary identity is avatar of resistance to Trump, instead of competent steward of 8+ million people, you risk poisoning that relationship and signal your voters that symbolic warfare matters more than results. Well, that's not leadership, that's branding. Number 3, nihilism, burn it down politics. See, a lot of Mamdani's support, especially among younger voters, comes from a dark place, crushed by rent, debt, stagnant wages, a sense that the system is rigged, and no trust in institutions. Instead of channeling that pain into serious reforms, they are drawn to maximalist candidates who sound like wrecking balls. Tax them, seize it, cancel it, punish, tear it all down. Mamdani's framing, oligarchy, despot, dismantling the conditions that allowed him to accumulate power. It flatters this nihilistic impulse. It tells hungry people, you are not lost or disillusioned. You are heroic revolutionaries fighting despots. The danger? Nihilistic politics rarely produces stable functioning cities. It produces policy whiplash, hostility toward law enforcement or business, permanent crisis theater. And when the chaos hits, crime spikes, services decay, businesses flee. Those same disillusioned voters suffer even more. Number 4, ignorance and low information vibes. Here is another uncomfortable point. A lot of people voting for these have no idea what they are signing up for. They hear, we'll hold bad landlords to account, we'll expand labor protections, we'll stand with immigrants, we'll stop Trump. Those are slogans, not operating manuals. What doesn't get read? Budget constraints, bond ratings, legal limits, the economic feedback loop of overtaxation, the difference between helping renters and gutting housing supply. Social media and cultural circles turn voting into a tribal fashion statement. Good people vote socialist. Good people are anti-Trump. Good people support rent freezes. So they signal virtue at the ballot box, then act shocked later when the policy really bites. This isn't to insult every voter, it's to say A democracy where people vote on vibes instead of facts will keep rewarding exactly this style of politics. Moralistic, theatrical, incoherent when it hits reality. And number 5, a victory speech about Trump, not New Yorkers. Now this is the core indictment. Victory night should tell you, what are your first 100 days? How will you keep families safe? How will you attract and keep jobs? What's your plan on crime, transit, schools, homelessness? Instead, Trump, despot, oligarchs, symbolic war with the conditions that created him. A promise that New York, a city dependent on federal partnership, will define itself in opposition to the sitting president. It's theatrically satisfying to the crowd. It's strategically reckless for the city. New Yorkers need a mayor, not a resistant influencer. If your North Star is oppose Trump rather than balance the budget, fix the subway, make streets safe, lower the cost of living without imploding the tax base, then your administration is built on resentment, not responsibility. And from day one, Mamdani's message is, this is about a crusade. Trump is the villain. We are the counter-legend. That might win a news cycle. It does nothing to stop a family from leaving for Florida, convince a business not to move to Texas or Tennessee, or make a cop stay on the force. Get a landlord to keep a building rentable instead of selling or letting it rot.